You know, for all the hype that rightly built around it, there was something wrong about having New Zealand against South Africa in the opening weekend here in Japan. The Rugby World Cup is divided into two distinct phases, the knockouts and the pool stages. And what I really want from the pool stages is not two teams who have played 99 times duking it out with enormous intensity, but Australia trying to withstand everything Fiji can throw at them, Namibia sneaking some nice tries past Italy. I want to see the first ever clash between Samoa and Russia, the second ever between Wales and Georgia, or England and Tonga. And you know what? I was in luck because literally all of those things happened in the first weekend of matches. Namibia put in a really good, entertaining show against Italy. This try by Damien Stevens was both a glorious indication that occasionally it looks like I know what I'm talking about, and a beautiful case of third team rugby working at test level. Really impressive for Namibia, however, was Chad Plato, who proved a universal problem for Italy. There's no theories needed about his form. He was just really good, and I'm excited to see more of him in Namibia's other games. On the other side, the blue side, Federico Russo remains an absolute baller, pulling this sweet little pop pass for Tito Tibaldi, who bafflingly is actually Italy's first and pretty much only scrum half at the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Russo is the kind of player the Barbars were made for, and if Italy are going to slide some tries past the All Blacks and the Springboks, it'll be him alongside dazzling hot stepper Matteo Minozzi and eternal shithouse Jake Pelledri we'll need to be keeping an eye on. England stuttered right through the middle of a highly spirited Tonga team in a bonus point performance, so mostly meh. It probably only gave Clive Woodward a semi. Tonga weren't fun, but they were brave. It sounds slightly patronising, but their control of the game and entirely negative tactics were a huge positive for them. It's something a lot of smaller teams struggle to do, to shut the game down, to stop the opposition playing. This was not a strong Tonga 15, but they should take a lot of heart going into their games against the USA and old friends France from the way they just contained their opposition for much of the game. As for England, however, whilst there was a bit of buffering in the performance, I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about. Whilst Eddie Jones is far less likely to virtually throw a small game than Warthog Emperor Warren Gatland, England's tries against Tonga all felt awfully reminiscent. Jones went into the game knowing England should have enough to win this in almost every reality, and as such, England gave nothing away. The warm-ups acted as an excuse to play a far more dynamic game than the kicking-dominated Six Nations, but here there was almost no real set plan, and that was the plan itself. If England are to make the final, this is likely the easiest of the 7 games they'll play. There's no point playing any of your hand here, so England just scored off straight power and the kind of screenplays we've been seeing from them all year. It's like this is the first member of the Elite Four, and Jones is holding back the PP on all of his Pokemon's best moves until he reaches the champion. There's no point wasting Hydro Cannon here when Bubble Beam will do. Wales were not entirely dissimilar. Warren Gatland said after the game there were some things they're holding back for Australia on Sunday, and it felt clear Wales had just done their homework on Georgia, thumbed through the playbook, picked out a handful of moves that would work, then headed down the bookies and put a 5 on Jonathan Davis to score first. Wales nabbed a bonus point before half-time, only the 4th time they've scored 4 tries in a match since the battering of Uruguay in the opening game of the 2015 World Cup. Then, they reverted to just using the same plays over and over, knowing they'd shown the world one page of their playbook and there was no point showing them anymore. I mean, Josh Adams and Justin Tipuric scored off exactly the same set move from the same position, for crying out loud. Wales, up until now, have felt like the kind of team who had beaten Namibia by the same score as New Zealand, always just doing enough to make it a Welsh win. However, despite pulling an attacking game from the back of the sofa, the most pleasing part of this first half, from a Wales perspective for me, was that once Georgia did start to smart up to the fact Wales sometimes threw flat balls off 9 and that inside runners exist, Wales nullified them still. Georgia couldn't get their scrum or maul going until after the break, when Wales came out, made a bunch of changes, and clearly had something of a, well, job done, game's over mentality about them. It was good to see Georgia score a few tries and showcase the sheer power we know they do possess, and that's one of a few things Wales do have to work on, the other big one being they still struggle to score phase play. Most of Wales' tries came from first or second phase, suggesting if you can shut them down right away, there isn't much of a threat there beyond it. However, there is one exception worth highlighting. This score by George North. It's noteworthy for several reasons. Firstly, because somewhere between catching the ball and reaching the first defender, Thomas Williams managed to fill out the paperwork required to legally change his first name to Shane, but also because Wales just scored from a counter-attack. This probably felt quite standard at the time to rugby fans who are used to seeing steps like this lead to 7-pointers, but I believe I'm right in saying that the last try Wales scored from kick return was this. This was the World Cup quarter-final in 2015, their last World Cup game, 4 whole years ago. So what happened? Wales the last year or two played a 13-man defensive line as standard, with the man in the 15 and 10 shirts essentially acting as dual fullbacks to cover the space. At points on Monday, instead of 10, they dropped back their scrum half. Gareth Davies and Thomas Williams are both very much attacking-minded players and very eager to run with the ball in hand. As such, Wales look to counter-attack far more often than usual. It's a little change, but it just shifts the mindset from Wales' usual instinct to hang it after fielding a kick and promotes a little bit of running rugby. Gatland talked about Wales holding things back for this World Cup, so I'd wager there's some more things like this we're going to see going forward. There'll be more little tricks like this in Wales' locker to get their attack popping. And finally, Russia played Samoa for the first time ever in a huge game. Now, a journal published in 1930 that I came across whilst researching my Samoan rugby musical said that traditional Samoan warriors were renowned for, after a battle, beheading the opposition chief and carrying it home to their village as a trophy. And this was a tradition that felt alive and true, as both Ray Lilo and Motu Matu seemed determined to knock the bonce right off Russian captain Vasily Artemyev's shoulders. Russia put up a really good fight for a team who all played another game 4 days earlier, but in the end, fatigue and the sheer class of Tim Nane-Williams and Apati Liua just showed through. I particularly enjoyed Yuri Kushnarev's decision to go for a drop goal here. It kept Russia in the game and showed they learnt their lessons from their inability to score any points during the double sin bin period after Lilo and Matu both collided with Artemyev's apparently concrete head. However, as Artemyev said after the game, Russia are coming to this World Cup determined to just earn some respect from the rugby public, who had written them off as unworthy, and now, halfway through their campaign, they've certainly done that. They won't be making knockout stages, but they've done enough to remind us why the World Cup is about more than just the big boys. Yo, what up? It's your boy back with another hard video from the streets or something to that effect. I'm in a tunnel underneath a road, the kind of thing they have in Birmingham. In Birmingham, they have graffiti on the walls that says things like, "Sharon is a slag." Here, in Japan, do you want to see the kind of graffiti they have? Lovely cartoony drawings of whales and dolphins. Clearly they've really bought into Gatland's team. So that's really lovely to see. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. There are so many more to come because there's so much more rugby, just loads of rugby. For anyone wondering, I am going to be doing New Zealand against South Africa. I'm going to get onto that very soon. I just want to get it right. I want to do it properly. Same with Ireland against Scotland. I wanted to try and nail them properly because they're quite time consuming to do. And so I'm trying to work through as many as possible and do them roughly in order, hence doing this roundup now to just get through a few of the smaller games quickly, to sort of wipe them off the list. So much more rugby to come, and I'll see you for it then as the bags under my eyes slowly grow, and this is mostly clean. It's mostly entirely clean, other than 2 nice drawings of whales and dolphins. See you soon.